I'm Cadence the drummer, and this is my corner. If you are new, welcome. If you have been rocking with us since we were the Chocolate Drops, welcome back. This is the channel that I share with my twin sister, where we talk about music and art. Today, I'm going to be talking about practicing and some of the things that I feel are crucial to practicing effectively. Over the years, I've had my share of practice spaces, garages, bedrooms, or in the middle of the house. As I've gotten a little bit older and a little bit more mature in my musical journey, I've learned that you really do need the right practice space in order to be effective. One thing I can say that is important, you need to have enough space for your equipment. You need to have enough plugins. You need to have a way to, cover your instrument to protect it from dust or the elements. You just really want to have a space that allows you to get to your instrument and access it easily. Another thing that is important when you're practicing is being able to practice your instrument at full volume. I know that in society today, with living in apartments, I currently live in an apartment, and you're not able really to play at full volume, if at all, and that can prohibit your growth and stunt your growth as a musician, because you're not really able to see what your instrument can do. You're not able to test it out at a lower volume, at a higher volume. It's definitely important to have the right space. This is just some video of the practice space that I currently rent. I share the space with another individual, but I am really happy to have this space because I searched all over, high and wide, for a practice space that would work for me. There's a lot of things that you have to consider when you're looking for a practice space. Is it affordable? Is it in a safe environment? How often are you able to access it? These are all questions I had to ask myself when I was looking for a space. And can you trust the person that you're sharing the space with if you're not getting a space on your own? And then a lot of times people don't consider that there's a waiting list for rehearsal spaces. So especially with me playing percussive instruments, that definitely poses an additional obstacle and challenge. But after long searching hard, good old Craigslist came through for the win, and I was able to secure a great spot, and it's really nice because I am able to play my drum at full volume, which is something I hadn't been able to do in a while. For my young musicians out there, I don't know if you guys remember something that's called Dr. Beat. Now, I know when I was in high school, my music teacher would play Dr. Beat over the loudspeaker, and it would drive people crazy. But honestly, it was something I enjoyed because Dr. Beat keeps you on beat. And if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially a metronome, and it keeps time for you. So that way you're not someone that rushes or drags when you play. That has been something that has been influential in my playing. I might not have chops, I might not know a bunch of fills, but one thing I can do is play in time. And that is, I can attribute that to my experience with Dr. Beat. I bought my own several years ago, and I use it every practice session. There isn't one practice session that I go through where I don't use Dr. Beat. And I remember growing up and playing in church, and one person in particular, the person that would play the organ and the music director, he would say, "Don't rush me, don't rush me." So I got that ingrained in my head, like, don't rush. I learned very early on that it's important to stay on beat, because you could play the greatest fill in the world, but if you don't come back in when you're supposed to, then you did all of that for nothing. Another thing that's important when it comes to your practice space is making sure that it's safe and secure. The location that I practice at now is about 15 minutes from where I currently live, so it's easily accessible. I have there's a code to get in, I have a key, so I don't have to rely on anyone else in order for me to access the building, which is good. And then it's nice too because there's a level of security. That way, no matter what time I am practicing, I know that there are other people around, there are people looking out for each other, and that gives me a sense of relief as well. Because as musicians, especially younger musicians, or even being a female musician, those are certain things that you want to consider. You don't just want to rent a space in a sketchy part of the neighborhood or with people that you don't really know too much about or can't really trust. There's a lot of reasons and concerns that can come up with that. So you definitely want to, be cautious. And a lot of times, if I'm being honest, I practice in my living room. My neighbors probably hate me, but I really try my best not to practice at hours where people would be sleeping. I don't practice early in the morning. I don't practice late at night. I usually cut myself off at a certain time time, and I don't try to practice for too long of durations because I am sensitive to the fact that I do live in an area where it's not conducive to music. So I definitely take that into consideration when I am practicing, because I don't want to disturb my neighbors, but I do want to continue to practice. So if there's a happy medium, I think I've found that. Another tip I can give is to, if you don't play a percussive instrument like myself, is use headphones. That's a great way to be able to practice at all hours and not disturb your family, disturb your friends, or disturb your neighbors, because I tell you, they don't want to hear you keep going over the same part over and over again. It's important to practice everything at a slow tempo and slightly increase until you reach your desired tempo. You don't want to memorize mistakes, and it's important that if you do it slowly and work your way up, that you know that you're doing it with accuracy. I've noticed that that's something that people kind of like, they play it 2 times or 3 times correctly, and then they like speed up to at tempo. You don't want to do that. You really want to take your time. If it's, you want to do something at 100 beats per measure, then maybe start at, 75. Sometimes painful, but this is what I do. If I'm starting at 75 and my goal is to reach 100, I'll do 75, play it right. And if I play it correctly, no mistakes, I move it up to 76. And then if I play it again, no mistakes, move it up to 77. And sometimes if I make a mistake, go back to 76. Increase it one number at a time, which can take forever, but trust me, it's better to be thorough. If you rush through it, if it's something that you're going to perform anyway, you probably need to play it thousands of times, or at least hundreds of times, in order to really get it into you, especially correctly. It's not time wasted if you do it very slowly and just inch it up one increment at a time. Trust me. You don't want to go from 75 to 95 and be making mistakes and all this. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. When it comes to practice spaces, make sure you have enough outlets. You might need quite a few outlets in order to get power to all of your instruments. For example, if you use a special light, ring light, or a music stand light, that's something that needs to be plugged in. Any chargers that you use for your phone or your devices, that needs to be plugged in. If you play a keyboard, that needs to be plugged in. If you use a metronome if you're not utilizing batteries, that would require for you to plug it in. Another tip I would say, if you're able to bounce ideas off of other musicians and practice together, that can be great. Sometimes you're able to catch mistakes that you wouldn't have recognized had you not been practicing with another individual. That's definitely something to consider. But you want to kind of learn it too. You don't want to just go into a practice situation where you haven't even looked at the music, because then it's like, well, what are you doing? But I hope these tips have helped you, at least got you thinking to what practice spaces would be conducive to the instrument that you play. If you've made it to the end of this video, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching.